Hey, I'm Isabel Bercaw, and when I was 12 years old, I founded a multi-million-dollar bath and body products company called the Bomb Bath. After 5 years of building my own brand, I've discovered a passion for helping young and innovative entrepreneurs tell their stories. Hopefully, you'll be inspired by the guests here on Build-A-Biz and maybe even motivated to start a business of your own. Let's get into it.
This is Build-A-Biz with Isabel Bercaw.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Build-A-Biz. I'm Isabel Bercaw, your host, and today I have joining me Evan Andrew, the digital creator, photographer, and real estate investor, and he is actually the same age as I am. The reason we met was we were actually at a school together in Minnesota, where I'm from. Evan, where are you from?
I am originally from North Dakota. I grew up on a small farm located 45 minutes south of Fargo, and now I live in St. Paul and go to the University of St. Thomas.
Awesome. So on that farm, I want to kind of talk about that a little bit. Would you say that your family is entrepreneurial because of your experience with farm work?
Yeah, totally. So I do think that my start into the entrepreneurial world started quite young, just with the exposure of having a family-run business. My dad and my mom both worked on the farm, and so my mom kind of did the books and did some running errands and things like that, while my dad did all of the machinery and harvesting and all that stuff. But I definitely was exposed to the world of running your own business, and that includes like how to run your own, like how to do accounting, how to manage your money, things like that, which is very eye-opening. And I feel very fortunate to have that background, because I really feel like yes, entrepreneurship can be taught, but it's also just great to be exposed to it for a really long period of time before opening your own business.
Yeah, totally. I would have to agree with that. Even when I was going to school for entrepreneurship, it's kind of a long story, but I ended up switching my major because I just felt like the best way that I had learned about owning my own business was through that exposure and was through just going for it and doing it. And I'm a very strong proponent of, I never think a formal education in any sense can hurt. But I do think that it's one of the best ways that you can learn how to do something is by watching other people do it firsthand, and also just by going in and doing it yourself. So I guess my next question for you would be, I'd like to know what you found yourself ever like helping with, what you found yourself like attracted to helping with, maybe with the farm activities, if you ever did help, or if you were just right from the start decided that you were just going to go in and teach yourself about other subjects such as photography and real estate investment.
Yeah, totally. So growing up, I grew up on a farm, but I didn't really love farming or love like living in the country or anything like that. But when I was probably in my sophomore year of high school, my dad and I started to talk more about finances and how to manage your money again. And so I started running numbers. I would create spreadsheets for him and just do some analysis and just really make sure that I was fully understanding what all goes into a business. And so I dug really deep into that and was able to learn some interesting things on that side of things. But I was also quite bored growing up on the farm, just because I wasn't a typical farm kid. I was looking to something that was a little more creative and that I could get my hands into. And so I started photography. And so I started out just shooting my family and friends, and then I would shoot like farm equipment and the corn cobs and just like some weird things like that. But it was just what I had around, and I was just trying to keep myself busy. And so I realized that I had a great passion for like photography as well as the business. And so I was able to create my photography business, which now I do about 15 weddings a year as a full-time college student. And so that's kind of how I started in my photography, was just I was bored on the farm and didn't really know what to do with myself.
That's so cool. So you just decided to one day just like pick up a camera, or what was that process like for you? Was it a thing where there's a couple of resources that you can really point to and say, this is what really helped me learn how to figure out like what works and what doesn't work for photography? Was it just like a trial and error thing? Can you talk to me a little bit about that learning process?
Yeah, totally. So I picked up my first camera probably around when I was like 7 years old. I was involved in 4-H throughout high school and elementary. And so I would always compete at our county and state fair in the photography division. So I was always exposed to photography a little bit. And then my mom bought a camera and she would take pictures at all of my sporting events. I played basketball, ran track. And so she always had a camera in her hand. And so definitely I was just kind of exposed to that. And I slowly progressed. And my mom always teases me about this, but my junior year of high school, she would always wonder where her camera was because I always had it in my car or I was always traveling with it. Like she could never find it because I had kind of like stolen it because I was just so passionate about photography and always wanting to shoot my friends and activities and things like that. But I was definitely self-taught. I used YouTube so incredibly much. I leaned into Jessica Whitaker a lot. She's a YouTuber and photographer. She kind of does a lot more portraits. She doesn't do a ton of weddings, but I looked to her content and probably watched every single video of hers like twice. And I was on YouTube all the time trying to figure out a bunch of different tips and tricks. And then I was just self-taught, and you learn you learn as you go. My editing style has really evolved. Before I was definitely like dark, moody, lots of blues, lots of greens. And it just wasn't the most natural or appealing. I don't know. It was appealing to me then, but definitely not now. And so now I tend to lean into more how it actually looks outside, but adding a little more saturation and some more colors to make it all blend with a little bit of warmth. And that's just where I am in my stage of editing right now. But all of that, everything changes as time goes on. Just keeping up with different trends as well as staying true to your own creative mindset.
That's so cool. I love that we got a little sneak peek into, what your photography style is. My photography style is usually I just whip out my phone and maybe the pictures comes out of focus. So it's cool to be able for you to be able to look back and see that you almost have like captured different moments in your life based on your photography style that kind of reflects that. And I love that you're self-taught too as well, that you just went on YouTube, because that's actually what my sister and I did when we were first starting our business. We just go on YouTube, look up just how to make a bath bomb and figure out what worked and what didn't. And we'd look at different books as well. And it's like that we almost had to find our recipe in a way that you had to find your style. Which is cool that we have that in common. So you mentioned briefly weddings. Would you say that's your favorite event to photograph? And if not, what is your favorite event to photograph?
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite event to photograph. I don't truly love event work, honestly. It's not as creative as I would like to be. And so I really enjoy couples. And so that kind of blends into weddings, and you get couples during golden hour and things like that. But I really just enjoy working with a couple for an hour or two, getting to know them, as well as just creating more creative work and seeing how they react with each other and how they interact with each other, excuse me. And so couples is definitely my favorite. I don't like families, especially with little kids. I enjoy hanging out with little kids, especially like families, like my family friends and things, but I don't have the patience to work with little kids or crabby teenagers and things like that. But I really enjoy just working with couples because they are truly happy when I'm shooting with them because they're wanting to capture the joy. And I enjoy making people happy, and so it's really self-fulfilling in that way.
That's awesome. So when you're talking a little bit about being creative and exercising your creative bone, if you will, Can you talk to us a little bit about what that process is like for you?
Yeah, in photography specifically, like with my clients or on my brand work side.
Yeah, I would love to hear all about like all of the above. If you just kind of want to talk about your creative process, because I know a lot of what you do with your work as a digital content creator involves your photography. So just talk to us a little bit about your creative process.
Yeah, totally. So how my creative process goes is So I grew up on the farm, like I grew up in the country, and so I love to be able to shoot in nature. I always thought that I would be a city kid and I would always love the cities, but I really don't. I enjoy my space. I enjoy not seeing my neighbor right outside my door. And so I always get my inspiration kind of when I'm in nature. So a lot of times I'll go on walks, or when I travel, I try to go to places that I'm not going to be in the city necessarily, but that you can get out of like a city and see different things. So this is kind of weird, but just like seeing the color green and grass and trees makes me so happy. And so when I am happy, I'm able to create and be a little more creative. But when I'm stuck in like, for example, when I'm stuck in St. Paul inside my dorm, I don't feel very creative. Like I would want to be changing up like the wall color and my flooring and everything like that. So if I'm surrounded in an environment where I feel happy and where I feel the most myself, that's where I'm the most creative. And for me, that's outside a lot of the time. So I don't do any studio work really at all. I try not to shoot inside of my apartment, inside my, like now I'm living back in the dorms. So I don't really shoot in the dorms just because I'm not that creative. But so whenever I'm working with couples, I'm always trying to push them outside. In my creative process, I start off doing air quote, like simple poses or the poses that your grandmother or grandpa would hang up on his fridge. And so I just always start with that because those are always the classics and that everyone will be happy with seeing those, but they may not be totally in love with their images. So I always start off like pretty simple, just capturing like the simple moments and things like that. But then slowly as I get warmed up, either if I'm like modeling myself or if I'm posing a couple for photography, then I'll start doing a little more creative work, trying to see how they're interacting with each other, getting their true, like genuine emotions. For example, if they're reading like their vows to each other, I always try to like grab some of like the girls or guys' hair and like shooting through them, trying to be a little more creative with different angles, dimension, things like that, playing with the foreground and background. So just trying to be really creative and making sure that I always get the simple poses, but then advancing and being just a little more creative and getting some unique images.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. You want to get the basics done first, and then after that, you can kind of play with your style, because I can imagine that in your field of work, it would be difficult because you don't want to push it too far, because on one side of things, it's like these people want to capture these special, simple moments. They don't want too crazy of work. But then on another hand, I've seen your work and it's really amazing. It's almost like you found a really good balance between adding a creative spark in there and then also just getting those really beautiful moments that don't really need a whole lot of pizzazz, if you will.
Yeah, completely. Thank you so much. And then another thing to add into that, like with wedding photography, that's a little more simple for me, except when I do the bridal work or the bridal portraits. But then like with my brand content, I get to be a little more creative because brands, that's what I'm hired for. I'm hired to be creative for them and not just give them something that everyone else can create.
All right, Evan, we're actually going to take a really quick music break, but when we return from the break, we can continue to talk about your brand and all that good stuff. Hey everybody, welcome back from the music break. I'm Isabel Bercaw, and I'm here today with Evan Andrew, the digital creator, the real estate investor, and the photographer. He is super cool, and we were just talking about how he built a personal brand for himself. And Evan, speaking of brands, I was wondering if you could walk us through how you have worked with other brands before.
Okay, so there's a bit more involved than a lot of people would think with this. So I have created so to start us off, I'll just start with what I have to send to brands. And so that is a media kit, as well as a short little template of who I am, providing my links and providing any other information such as demographics and things like that. But for my media kit, I highlight my portfolio. So I showcase all my different images that I've worked with or that I've created for different brands, as well as all my demographic links. Like all of those things are all put into one media kit. And so either when I reach out to a company or a company reaches out to me, in the first interaction, I always send that media kit. And that was what kind of put me over that's what moved me up in the content creation world, because I had a graphic designer put together I think it's really classic and really beautiful media kit. And so I wasn't looking like I was just this college student who was creating content from his dorm room, but I was this like 20-year-old entrepreneur who had this creative vision and had like this idea of how to be able to create content to best reach his audience. And so I really feel that I was able to move up in the content creation world by having a solid media kit. But for example, when a company reaches out to me right away, a lot of times they don't ask if or they don't say, oh, this is a paid collaboration, this is a free collaboration. I've been doing content creation for about 4 years now, and I don't take any free collaborations on, even if they're a brand I truly love. It's just, this is my job, and I have other brands who are going to be paying me, who I love as well. And so I just can't saturate my feed with brand. And so I have to be conscious of who I'm working with. But so, for example, when a brand reaches out to me, they'll either say, is this free or is it paid? I'll handle that. And then we go into negotiation about what the deliverables are going to be. So that could be a TikTok, that could be a reel, that can be links and bios, a write-up for them to be able to use, if they're going to have the rights to promote my content, if all the content is going to be whitelisted, if I'm going to not be able to compete with any other brands. So exclusivity is a huge one. So a lot of times you can't work with a different brand for like 30 or 90 days. And sometimes they might ask for rights to have the rights to your images for up to a year. And that can be used on like billboards, their social media pages, anything like that. And so I know that was a lot, but there's a lot more that goes into that, but I'm just going to leave it as that. There's a ton of information right there. But so you reach out to them, you negotiate, and then you get their style kit back of what they kind of want the images to look like. And then you get the product shipped to you, and then you create the content. A lot of times it's either myself or my boyfriend or family who shoots the images for me. And then I send it back off to the brand, and it typically takes about 2 weeks to get a turnaround from brands to get approval for your caption and everything. And sometimes it can take more. I'm currently working on a campaign, and it's been 2 months since I've been able to get the content back. It's actually my biggest collaboration I've ever done. And so everything has to be everything has to be done exactly the way they want that, especially to get past their legal process.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, I'm going to stay tuned, following you on Instagram. What's your Instagram really quickly for the people listening?
Yeah, of course. So my main Instagram is Sweet Life of Evan, and that is my content creation page. And then my photography page is Evan Andrew Photo.
Yeah, so everyone should follow that and stay tuned, because I know I'm super curious about this big brand that you're working with. So congratulations on that. And also I picked out a couple of different key points throughout your story there about creating content with brands. First of all, I'd love to emphasize how similar your brand presentation is to that of a company or a brand. You almost have to make a company out of yourself, which is crazy. Because I know a lot of what you were describing, such as the media kit is what you called it. We also have one of those for my business, Bomb Bath. And then we also have different, brand guidelines that we would maybe give to an influencer such as yourself, or even just to a retailer who will carry our products, buy them for wholesale and sell them, so that they can display our products properly in their stores, just for brand consistency. So it's cool to see that you have, made this business and a brand out of what you do, and you didn't even really need a product, which is super cool. So congratulations on that. And also, I love that you talked a little bit about how a lot of your family members help you with your work as well, because I have a family business too. And I know that my sister and my family are always by my side as well. So that's super cool that you have that support. But I also really admire that you were able to figure all that out on your own. How did you know where to start in terms of, oh, this is what I really need to get in order to move up in the ranks of the content creator world? You said you decided to work with a graphic designer, which is actually, funny enough, one of the first things that I invested in my business. So where did you get that information that gave you, or maybe it was just an instinct that made you want to work with the people that you did early on?
Yeah, to be completely honest, I had no idea what I was doing or where I was going with my work. And so I was somebody who always wanted to prove everyone else wrong, and I still am. And so my family always was like, "You're not going to make any money. This isn't going to be good. Like, don't waste your time on this." All my classmates were the same thing. They were all like naysayers, and nobody was really supporting me. So I was like, "How am I going to be able to get them to support me? And what do I have to do to show that?" And so I really dug deep and was able to establish a solid brand. And my brand is Evan Andrew. And so that was kind of how I just had this like urge to be able to create something and create a brand that my family and friends would be proud of me for, just because they weren't necessarily supportive of it right away. So right away, I was able to, like, in the first year and a half or two, I was able to work with like HelloFresh, Pottery Barn, Fossil, Daniel Wellington, Mountain Dew, and some other like big brands like that. And so they were really supportive once I started being able to bring some money in and saw that it was actually a sustainable business. And now everyone is very, very supportive of it. But for me, just right away, it was kind of just instinct. It was like, I got to go with my gut and to make do with what I could.
Wow, maybe I need to have you around to do my business decisions more often, because it seems like your gut instinct is really great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely noticed that too. When I was first starting my business, people would say like, "Oh, you like," there was one specific instance where I didn't have a personal connection to this person, but it was a business meeting, and someone was saying, "Oh, you'll never." Just so you know, you'll never make any money, but you are going to have a nice hobby. And that also it put a little fire under me. It made me say like, no, I want to make a bath bomb empire now, because there is something satisfying about quote unquote, like proving people wrong. And something that I have noticed as well is throughout that process of trying to do something to show somebody else who you are, you really find out a lot about yourself. And to me, that's what makes the process worth it, which is really cool.
Yeah, completely. And it's almost like in my mind, I don't want everyone to support me throughout my entire life, because I still need that fire under my butt to get going. And so I of course I want everyone to support me, but those haters and those naysayers are the people who really make our businesses successful.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that. And then because you're not busy enough, you also are a real estate investor. So can you just tell me a really quick overview of how many properties you have now and what you use those properties for when you're not staying there?
Yeah, completely. So I bought a fourplex with my sister back in June of 2020, right when COVID was happening. And so that is a fourplex, which is 4 apartments inside of one house. 3 of those units we have now converted to Airbnbs, and then 1 of those units is still a long-term rental property, so that person is on a 12-month lease. And then this past March, I renovated a house, which is a 5-bedroom, 2-bath house, and that is now a long-term rental as well. So in total, we have about 5 units, 3 of those Airbnbs and 2 long-term rentals.
That's so cool. And I am a fan, Evan. I'm always on your Instagram looking at your stories, and I see that you do a lot of the work yourself, and that's super impressive. And that just speaks a little bit more to your character about how even if you haven't had any formal education on how to do something, you set your mind to it and you decide that you're going to do it. I want to ask you a little bit about that renovation process. Is that at all like therapeutic for you to just get to like tear apart a house and then let the artist side of you come out and just make it beautiful again?
I definitely wouldn't say it was therapeutic. This last renovation took 6 weeks longer than it was supposed to, and I found myself in the bathroom crying in the shower way too many times, so it wasn't very therapeutic. And it may look like beautiful and stunning on like Instagram and on like stories and stuff, but the amount of work that you don't see and that I never knew was gonna have to be involved, I don't know. It's some days I'm like, oh, it wasn't worth it. But the final touches, like when you're putting on the doorknobs or like putting on the handles, that is therapeutic. It's just like, whoa, like the storm is gone, like the water's gone away, like everything is just done. And that is very therapeutic. And it makes you so happy and content. Like I am now content with the house that I did. I was so stressed out when I was renovating it. Nothing was going right, but now it's done and I love it. And now I'm really proud of it. So yeah, it definitely is. I guess I should back up and say that while it wasn't therapeutic during the process at all, now it was like, whoa, like I did that. And now I'm like, I can do a bit bigger project. Like what's my next step?
Yeah. If anything, it's satisfying, and it involves a growth process, which is cool.
Totally.
I love Yeah, exactly. I loved your analogy of how the water was a little rocky at first and then it kind of calmed down. Maybe poetry will be your next endeavor.
Definitely not, but maybe.
I'll cross my fingers and hope for some Evan Andrew poetry coming up.
Yeah, maybe some captions can be poetic.
Yes, I like that. I'll keep an eye out. Well, Evan, thank you so much for coming on Build-A-Biz. Unfortunately, this is all the time we have left today, but I so enjoyed getting to have a conversation with you and catch up a little bit and share your story with all the listeners. If anybody here wants to listen to Evan's interview once again, he gave some really great advice. Maybe you joined halfway through. So you should definitely go to the Build-A-Bear YouTube channel, where you'll find a Build-A-Bear radio playlist, and you'll find all the Build-A-Biz episodes. So you can listen to Evan's, you can listen to other people's. But yes, Evan, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Isabel.